यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 Vishnupath Paramahansa Parivrajakatarishtottara Satar Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupath Paramahansa Parivrajakatarishtottara Satar Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem se kho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण रुक्मिणी सत्यभामा की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जय। श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 24, the Renunciation of Kardama Muni, text number 41. Maitreya Uvacha Eva Samuditaha Tena Evam Samuditastena Evam Samuditastena Kapilena Prajapatihi Kapilena Prajapatihi Kapilena Prajapatihi Dakshini Kritya Tam Pritaha Dakshini Kritya Tam Prito Dakshini Kritya Tam Prito Vanam Eva Jagama Ha Vanameva Jagamaha Vanameva Jagamaha Maitreya Uvacha Evam Samuditastena Kapilena Prajapatihi Dakshinīkritya tam prīto vanameva jagāmaha. Maitreya uvacha evam samuditastena kapilena prajapatihi dakshinīkritya tam prīto vanameva jagāmaha. Maitreya uvacha. The great sage Maitreya said, Evam, thus, samuditaha, addressed, tena, by him, kapilena, by Kapila, prajapatihi, the progenitor of human society, Dakshinīkritya, having circumambulated, tam, him, prītaha, being pacified, vanam, to the forest, eva, indeed, jagama, he left, then. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Sri Maitreya said, thus, when Kardama Muni, the progenitor of human society, was spoken to in fullness by his son Kapila, he circumambulated him, and with a good, pacified mind, he at once left for the forest. Kindly repeat. Sri Maitreya said, thus, when Kardama Muni, the progenitor of human society, was spoken to in fullness by his son Kapila, he circumambulated him, and with a good pacified mind, he at once left for the forest. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Going to the forest is compulsory for everyone. It is not a mental excursion upon which one person goes and another does not. Everyone should go to the forest, at least as a vanaprastha. Forest going means to take 100% shelter of the Supreme Lord, as explained by Prahlad Maharaj in his talks with his father. Sadhu Samudvigna Dhyam. Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, Text number 5. People who have accepted a temporary material body are always full of anxieties. One should not, therefore, be very much affected by this material body, but should try to be freed. The preliminary process to become freed is to go to the forest or give up family relationships and exclusively engage in Krishna consciousness. That is the purpose of going to the forest. Otherwise, the forest is only a place of monkeys and wild animals. To go to the forest does not mean to become a monkey or a ferocious animal. It means to accept exclusively the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage oneself in full service. One does not actually have to go to the forest. At the present moment, this is not at all advisable for a man who has spent his life all along in big cities. As explained by Prahlad Maharaj, Hitvatmapatam griham andhakupam. One should not remain always engaged in the responsibilities of family life, because family life without Krishna consciousness is just like a blind well. Alone in a field, if one falls into a blind well and no one is there to save him, he may cry for years and no one will see or hear where the crying is coming from. Death is sure. Similarly, those who are forgetful of their eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord are in the blind well of family life. Their position is very ominous. Prahlad Maharaj advised that one should give up this well somehow or other and take to Krishna consciousness and thus be freed from material entanglement, which is full of anxieties. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namavo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam, pangam langhayate girim, yat kripatamaham vande, Sri Gurum Deenataranam. Some few years back, I was traveling from Dehradun to, I think, Bangalore or somewhere. I don't remember, recollect exactly where I was going. I think I was going to Bangalore. Those days I was stationed in Dehradun. There is a very small airport in Dehradun. Actually, it's not in Dehradun, it's in Rishikesh. It's called Dehradun Airport, but it is actually in Rishikesh. I had a flight to catch from the Dehradun Jolly Grant Airport. Got into the aircraft. I was sitting. Next to me, one young chap was sitting. One young person was sitting. Young man. Maybe 20 something. And the flight was full, of course. There were 3 seats. I think I was in the middle or something like that. And this man was sitting next to me. And in the front row, another 3 people were sitting, and one girl was sitting, young girl was sitting towards the window. After the flight took off, this young man, he spoke to the girl and he told her, did you also not attend that camp which I was there in Rishikesh? She turned around, looked at him and said, oh yes, I remember you. You were also there in the camp. And so they started talking to each other. And this boy was asking that girl that, what did you like in the camp most? And she was saying, oh, the trek we took through that, they take them to trek on different parts of Uttarakhand. So the trek we took towards, I think there is one, we had the trek, that was very nice. What did you like? She asked him. And he was telling that boat ride we had. They have that yachting. These are all different parts of the, when people go for a camp in Uttarakhand, they take them for a trek through the hills, take them through the forest of Uttarakhand, then they take them on a yacht, and all these kind of different adventure sports. So I think they were in the camp for about 4 or 5 days. So like this they were exchanging, and then he asked her, where are you working? And she said she is working in some company. And she asked him, where are you working? He said he's got a job in some place like that. So looks like they're freshly out of college, maybe 1 year in a job or something like that. So what I could understand was that in our days, whenever we would get a vacation or something like that, we would go with the friends to some movie or some place, some picnic place close to the city wherever we were staying, or we would take our parents and go for some picnic or some restaurant or some movie. Those used to be the kind of recreations we used to have. Modern day, these youngsters, this girl and this boy have gone to a camp, and a 4 or 5 day camp all alone. They have not even gone with, forget about relatives, they have not even gone with friends, all strangers. These camps normally 15-20 people will be there in the camp for 5 days. They will have temporary tents, they go from place to place, all well organized by these tour operators. Good facilities, good food, kind of putting tents and staying, not staying in a hotel and all that. So more of nature. So looks like in the younger generation, this is catching up. That when they have got a job, now they are independent, they are not dependent on the family anymore. So they want to connect with nature, cut off from the city life, mobiles and all the gadgets and televisions and motor cars and all that. Go to some nature-driven place and spend some time, 4 or 5 days, trek through the forest and all these kind of things. These kind of things are catching up. Now, that tendency to go to the forest is there even now. That's why all these youngsters have now started going to the forest. As Prabhupada is explaining in the purport to today's verse, it so happened that once Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad Maharaj was his son, youngest son, very small child, 5 years old. Once he called Prahlad and made him sit on his lap. And Prahlad had already started going to school. So he made him sit on his lap. And Hiranyakashipu asked him, Kathyatam vatsa manyate sadhu yatvam. Please tell me, Kathyatam, please tell me, Vatsa, oh my dear son, please tell me, Tat sadhu, manyate tat sadhu, what have you learned? What do you consider is the best thing that you have learned? Hiranyakashipu wanted to hear from the child something like, oh, I learned 2 + 2 is 4, or I learned something about geography, history, politics, something like that. But what was Prahlad Maharaj's response? Tat sadhu manye asuravarya dehinam sada samudvigna dhiyam hitvatmapatam grihamandakubvam vanam gato yad harimashrayeta. Prahlad Maharaj gave a very stunning response to Hiranyakashipu. Why stunning? Because unexpected of a 5-year-old child. He spoke very high philosophy. He said, oh my dear best of asuras, asuravarya, tat sadhu manye, according to me, in my opinion, the best thing to do is hitvatmapatam grihamandakupam. One should give up griham andakupam. One should give up the blind well of family life. Why? because sada samudvigna dhiyam. Because this blind well of family life puts one in constant anxiety. Anxiety of how to maintain the family, how to take care of them, how to secure their future. So this kind of anxiety that family life puts a person into, it arises because of our attachment to the family. Although family life appears very nice, very attractive for the people, in reality, Prahlad Maharaj is saying it is actually a blind well. Why a blind well? As Prabhupada explains in the purport. When a person falls into a blind well in the middle of nowhere, now he has fallen into the blind well, now he starts calling out for help. He is in great anxiety. What will happen to me? How will I escape? And he starts shouting for help. Nobody will come. And eventually, he will die. No food, no water, stuck in a deep, dark well. What will happen? He will die in a few days. Exactly in the same way, a person gets into family life being attracted when he looks at different people, all kinds of people, all his friends, relatives, everybody are in family life. He feels, oh, they are enjoying so nicely. Such a nice, this one, beautiful wife, beautiful husband. There are small children and parents and brothers, relatives. So nice. They have get-togethers, they have parties, they have festivals, they wear good dress, eat good food. Such a good life it is. And a person goes and jumps into that family life. Actually, without realizing that it is a deep, dark well. Once he enters into family life, then starts the real fun. Now, wife and husband have come together. They need a place to stay. They have to have a house. You may have to take a rented house, or you may have to buy a new house. If you take a rented house, every month the rent has to be paid on time. Otherwise, the landlord will kick you out. If you buy your own house, you will buy it on EMI. Every month, the EMI you have to pay to the bank. If you don't pay, bank will come and take away your house. Again, you will be on the street. Pressure, anxiety. And then, paying the rent alone is not enough. House has to have furniture. House needs electricity. House needs water. Every month, these bills will keep coming and dropping at our doorstep. See, Krishna. Every month you have to pay the bill. Okay, nowadays the government has so many welfare schemes. Up to 300 units, you don't have to pay any money. So that much relief has come. But that doesn't end there. You have to every day eat food. You need groceries. You need vegetables. 300 units of power you got free. About 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 rupees, whatever it is. On the other hand, what has happened? Price of tomato and onion has gone up from 20 rupees to 100 rupees a kg. So whatever you saved there went there. So finally, what are you left with? So every month you have to keep paying for the dal, for the rice, for the vegetables. This money has to keep going. Doesn't end there also. Now you have to go from house to office and come back every day. You need a vehicle. So you buy a bike or you buy a car. Again, every month EMI gets added. Not only EMI gets added, also you have to send the vehicle for service. Every other day you have to put petrol. Tire will puncture. Some other headlight will blow. Some problem will happen. Nothing else. You have stopped your car or bike somewhere. And after you go inside your office, come outside, somebody has broken the light. Now you have to go change the light. That will cost another 1,000 rupees. So, the moment you step into family life, one after another, things keep piling up and you need to earn more money, more money, more money. Whatever you earn is never enough. You earn some money, you manage to save a little somehow, suddenly you will fall sick, you have to go to the hospital, insurance says this is not covered under this one, you have to spend all your savings, over, finished. So, the family life, once you get into it, anxiety after anxiety keeps coming. And at that time, if you think, how do I get out of this? Start thinking, oh, if I get this job, I jump from this company to this company, I get a promotion, I go abroad, I'll be able to solve my problems. Never ends. You keep on trying like a person who has fallen into the deep dark well. He keeps on crying in great anxiety. Nobody will come to help him. Similarly, person has jumped into the family life, anxiety after anxiety is falling upon him, and he is trying various things this way, that way, this way, that way. No relief. So the only way to attain relief, Prahlad Maharaj says, Hitvatma patam grihamandakupam, give up this deep dark well of family life, vanam gato, and go to the forest. So actually when Hiranyakashipu heard this, he became very angry. Why did he become angry? Not because Prahlad Maharaj told him to go to the forest. Going to the forest was not unfamiliar to Hiranyakashipu, because long back, when Hiranyaksha was killed by Varahadev, Hiranyakashipu went to the forest in the valley of Mandara hill. He also gave up his family, went to the forest. And what did he do? He went there and did a severe type of tapasya. Hiranyakashipu did not go to the forest of Mandara hills for trekking like these youngsters of today. Today's youngsters go to the forest for trekking. Hiranyakashipu did not go for trekking. What did he go for? He went there to execute severe austerity. What was the austerity he executed? He stood on his toes, raised both arms up, and then raised his head looking towards the sky and stood like that. Very difficult posture. He stood like that for years together, without eating, drinking, resting, constantly standing like this. And because of his tapasya, what happened? His austerity, a fire started coming out of the top of his head. This was not an ordinary fire. This fire started emanating so much heat that the entire Swargaloka, everybody started feeling the heat. It became difficult for them to properly execute their activities. Just like here also, Earth planet also, you see, nowadays there is a lot of talk about climate change. Climate change, the temperature has gone up by 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 degrees centigrade. That itself is causing so much discomfort to the human beings on this earth. Big presidents, prime ministers, they are all coming into G20 and United Nations, and everywhere they are discussing how to address this climate change. Maybe, who knows, somebody in Narakaloka or somewhere, somebody is doing some austerity, because of that temperature is increasing here. We don't know. Those days, Hiranyakashipu did such a severe tapasya, the heat reached the heavenly planets. So temperature there also went up, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees centigrade, whatever it went up, people started feeling very uncomfortable. All the devatas. So they all went to Brahma and said, Brahma, look at what Hiranyakashipu is doing. Because of his Ghora tapasya, because of his intense austerity, we are not able to sustain. You only have to do something, because his whole austerity is to appease you. And then they said, please be careful, huh? Please don't think he has become your devotee. His whole intention of doing this austerity is to overthrow you and become the Brahma. Brahma said, anyway, don't worry, I will take care. And Brahma came to Hiranyakashipu, and then he asked the Hiranyakashipu, why are you doing this austerity? What do you want? So Hiranyakashipu asked him, I should not be killed like this, I should not be killed like that, I should not be killed by a man, by an animal. Why animal? Because Varahadev, animal form, Vishnu had come and killed his brother, younger brother, Hiranyaksha. So he said, not by man, not by animal, not by a devata, by none of these things, not during the day, not during the night, not on land, air, sea. Because Varahadev killed Hiranyaksha in the sea, in the water. So, not in the water, not in the land, not in the air, all kinds of things he covered. And Brahma had no choice because he has done so much tapasya. He said, okay, take. And so like this, Hiranyakashipu had become very powerful. So, Vanam Gato, when Prahlad Maharaj said Vanam Gato, Hiranyakashipu was not unfamiliar with going to the forest. He also had gone to the forest, executed great tapasyas. Hiranyakashipu did not go to the forest for trekking. He went for great tapasya. The tapasya was for what? To become immortal and to become undefeated and to be able to conquer the heavenly planets, to conquer all the devatas. That was his intention. So Prahlad Maharaj said, Vanam Gato, when one goes to the forest giving up one's family life, it is not for a trekking, for our sense gratification, for our leisure. Once in 1 or 2 years, go for 3-4 days, trek and go nice, see nice scenery and come back. No. Nor is it to go to the forest to execute severe austerities, to appease some devata, to appease some demigod and get some material benediction, to become the conqueror or ruler of even the heavenly planets. Even that is not the goal of going to the forest. Hitmatmapatam grihamandakupam vanogata vanam gato yad harimashrayeta. The real purpose of going to the forest is harim ashrayeta, to take shelter of the lotus feet of Hari, Krishna. That is why Hiranyakashipu became angry at Prahlad Maharaj. That, oh, you are telling we should take shelter of Hari, Krishna. He is my enemy. You are telling me to surrender to my enemy. And that's how he became angry. So, the real purpose of going to the forest is, as explained by Prahlad Maharaj, to take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna or Hari. As long as we remain in family life, we have so many things to depend upon. Wife, husband, children, parents, relatives, friends, society, police, judiciary, the politicians, the government, medical science, hospitals, doctors, vaccines. We have so many things to depend upon. When you go to the forest all alone, there is no government, there are no vaccines, there are no hospitals, no doctors, no banks. There is nothing you can depend upon. The only thing you can depend upon is Paramatma within the heart. That's all. That's the only possibility of survival. So in the olden days, in the Vedic times, Panchashordham manam brajet. It is said that when one becomes 50 years of age, one should give up the family life and go to the forest. Why go to the forest? So that one learns to depend upon Krishna. One gives up one's dependence on all one's material arrangements, and one learns to depend solely upon Krishna, Hari. Somebody is in family life in the material world, he may be a devotee of Krishna. He may be a devotee of Vishnu, Narayana. But his dependence is not solely upon Narayana or Krishna. His dependence is upon so many other arrangements also. Therefore, in the Vedic scriptures it is said, give up your, so that you learn to depend solely upon Krishna, Hari. Because that's the only way to overcome the cycle of repeated birth and death within this material world. As long as we continue to depend upon our various material arrangements and our intelligence and our abilities, even partially, we cannot go back to Godhead. We will continue to remain in the cycle of birth and death within this material world. Even if you execute devotional service, if the dependence is not total on Krishna, you cannot get out of the cycle of birth and death. Therefore, as Maitreya Rishi is stating here, Kardama Muni gave up his family life, although he was executing devotional service in his family life. His wife was also a devotee, but still he gave up. And he had the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son. But still, he gave up his family and went to the forest. Dakshini Kritya, he circumambulated his own son. Because his son is not an ordinary son, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vanam eva jagamaha, and he left for the forest. Why? Because he wanted to learn to solely depend upon Krishna. He wanted to become a pure devotee. He was not satisfied with being a Mishra Bhakta, by a devotee who has yoga and jnana mixed in his devotional service. He wanted to execute Ananya Bhakti, Kevala Bhakti, pure devotional service. That is why he went to the forest. So, we have to understand that, as Prabhupada says in the purport, that it is not expected in Kali Yuga, in the modern age, that everyone has to imitate Karadama Muni and go to the forest. Why? Because in the Vedic times, when it is stated, Panchashordham Manam Vrajet, the culture in the society was that everybody at 50 years of age, he would go to the forest. But that going to the forest, you cannot survive in the forest simply like that. You need to know what to eat in the forest. You cannot carry along with you one stove and then carry some groceries also with you and cook their nice food stuff and eat. You cannot do all those things. When you go to the forest, there is no power, there is no gas, nothing is there. So you have to simply eat leaves, fruits and berries. Now in the forest, all kinds of trees will be there. There will be trees which will produce very sweet fruits, and there will be trees which produce poisonous fruits also. So you should know which fruits to eat, which leaves to eat. If you eat the wrong leaf or wrong fruit, you will die, or you will get some disease. And you have to, when you go to the forest, you will not find some raiment shop and all kinds of fashion shop and all that to buy your clothes and wear. When you go to the forest, what is there? You have only trees and plants and creepers and all that. So how to clothe yourself with tree bark, that knowledge is also required. So like this, to live in the forest, you need to know how to survive. If you do not know how to survive and go to the forest, very quickly you will die. There is no way you can survive. In the olden days, what used to happen was, Vedic times, children when they were 5 years of age, they would be sent to the Gurukula. And the Gurukula, the children will have to live in a very austere way, and they learn all these natural ways of living and surviving. And it was very common knowledge amongst all the people how to survive when one is in the forest. Another thing one has to understand, that in the forest, when you are going to sleep at night, you cannot put on your mosquito repellent. You cannot wear blankets if it is feeling cold. If it is feeling hot, switch on the AC. All these facilities are not there. So how will you survive? There are ways to survive. There are ways to avoid mosquito bite. There are ways to keep yourself warm when the weather is cold. So surviving in the forest is not for an ordinary person. One has to know all the techniques. In the Vedic times, everybody from childhood would be trained up in these things, because expectation, everybody knows 50 years I have to go to the forest. So better be prepared. That is how when Lord Ramachandra and Sita Maiya, they went to the forest, they knew how to survive. They used to wear dresses made of tree barks. They used to eat certain kinds of roots and fruits. Even now you go to this Chitrakoot area and to Uttar Pradesh and all that. Sometimes during season you will find people selling ramphal. It is a root, basically a root, which is what Lord Ramachandra used to eat when he was in the forest. So they knew Lord Ramachandra, even though he was a king, he did not get any notice period from his stepmother when to go to the forest. Tomorrow is his coronation. Today, his stepmother Kaikeyi is telling you to go to the forest now. No preparation, he had to go, but he was trained from childhood. So he knew how to survive. Sita Maya also knew how to survive. Lakshmana also knew. Similarly, the Pandavas also, they had to go to the forest. They knew how to survive. Even though they were kings, they knew how to survive in the forest. So even kings were trained in this. Because it was expected, especially Kshatriyas and Brahmanas, when they become 50 years of age, they have to anyway go to the forest. So right from childhood, they would be trained up in all this. Today, where is the training? Nobody gets trained. We all get trained only to depend upon all the different kinds of gadgets. In the olden age, what used to happen? People used to do all calculations, mathematics. They would do in their mind, or they would write on a piece of paper and do everything. Today, we have calculators. I remember once in college, when we come to engineering, you get introduced to the engineering calculator, scientific calculator. So all of us have to buy scientific calculator, because when you solve a problem, there will be complex division, subtraction, addition, multiplication, all these things happening. So instead of doing all, trying to do it on paper and in your mind and all becomes very complicated, press a few buttons, you get an answer immediately. 2.33 into 4.65 divided by 3.82, something like that will come up. If you try to do it manually, it will take a long time. So press a few buttons, you'll get an answer immediately. But then people become so much dependent on this. We were sitting in the classroom, and one of the professors was solving a problem. I think it was dynamics of machine or something like some subject like that. So different steps, we have to put different formulas, put various figures into that. And finally, after reducing everything, he came to a final step. Now, final step is equal to 0 divided by 356.387, something like that, some figure like that came. Immediately, all the students, all my friends, I'm looking at everyone, took out calculator, furiously pressing. Arey Baba, 0 divided by everything, why do you have to calculate? 0 divided by anything is 0. So, and then, then suddenly everybody realized, oh my God, what are we doing? And everybody started laughing. So this is how modern day life makes you totally dependent upon all these gadgets. You don't know how to survive without these things. Like one devotee, Jaganmohan Prabhu, was telling me how when he comes from a rural background. So his father used to be a farmer, and in the village, they have a lot of agricultural fields and all that. And his father looks like he had a bigger piece of land, and there would be every day some few laborers who would come, do the work and go. So Jaganmohan Prabhu got educated in the city, and he came back. And these laborers, they come in the morning and they have a fixed time. They have to work till 5:30 and they have to go. And so they are working. Suddenly, they all started winding up everything. We are going home. He said, hey, wait, time. He looked at the watch. It was exactly 5:30. And they all started laughing at him. We all gone to the city. You don't know how to see the time. Just by seeing the sun and the length of the shadow, people could estimate what is the time of the day. Exactly, accurately. He was telling me, sharing with me this same point about how we become so much dependent upon gadgets that seeing time, calculating, all these kind of things, we become dependent upon these electronic and electric gadgets. Similarly, for our survival also, we become dependent upon these gadgets. We want mosquito repellents, we want this one AC, we want fans, all these things we have become dependent. So when we become dependent like this, now to tell someone in the city to go to the forest, first day itself poor fellow will die. You tell him to go to the forest, out of shock itself he will die. Forget about going to the forest and dying. So it is impossible, it is impractical in the modern day to actually go to the forest. So we have to take the spirit of going to the forest. Vanam gato yad harimarshayat. Ultimately, the principle is what? Going to the forest is not the ultimate end. Going to the forest was a means to harimarshayat, to take shelter of the lotus feet of Hari, to surrender to Hari, to become dependent upon Hari, Krishna. So therefore, in Kali Yuga, the simple process is that we center our lives around Krishna. Whatever food we cook at home, we offer to Krishna and we eat. Whenever we need some recreation, we go to the temple and engage in Sankirtana Yajna, or we go on pilgrimage. So, every activity we center around Krishna. Then in Kali Yuga, there is no need to go to the forest literally. We have to simply learn how to depend upon Krishna. So depending upon Krishna begins with chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, reading Srila Prabhupada's books like Bhagavad-gita and other books, and following those instructions. And by this, we can learn to depend upon Krishna. Otherwise, one may go to the forest, one will go for trekking, one will go for executing austerities to appease some devata, but one will not learn to surrender to Krishna. Such kind of going to the forest is useless. So, we have to learn the principle of going to the forest, like it is stated here, that Vanameva Jagama, Karda Mumuni went to the forest. He was already living an austere life of a hermit. So what is there? He was already a renounced person. So what is the need for him to take sannyas and go to the forest? It was simply to learn to depend upon Krishna solely. So this is the real purpose of the human form of life. And if, as Prabhupada mentions in the purport, to go to the forest does not mean to become a monkey or a ferocious animal. It means to accept exclusively the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage oneself in full service. So this is the purport of today's verse. If anybody has any question or comment, we can discuss.
Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Like in other ages, Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, how they used to practice Krishna consciousness in being a Vanaprastha, because they will not get devotees association, no temples, nothing. Alone among ferocious animals amidst all this.
Well, to say that pure devotees were not there even in the previous ages like Satyuga, Treta Yuga is not correct. There were pure devotees even at that time. There were incarnations of the Supreme Lord, like Lord Ramachandra appeared in Treta Yuga. So the Lord also incarnates, and there will be devotional service to be executed through the means of Ashtanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga, etc., according to the Yuga. Kritaye Dhyaito Vishnum, Tretayam Ejato Makhaihi. So there, for each Yuga, there is a specific Yuga Dharma to be followed. By following, if you follow that strictly and very properly, eventually you'll come to the point of surrender to Krishna. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Mahatmanaha. So, but the problem was in the olden ages, these processes of yajna, of Ashtanga Yoga, etc., would take several lifetimes for a person to finally come to the point of pure devotional service. In Kali Yuga, the advantage is even within one very lifetime, simply by practicing Krishna consciousness, chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, following the regulative principles, accepting Srila Prabhupada as one's guru and taking initiation from him and following his instructions, one can achieve the perfection of life. So in Kali Yuga, it is a far easier and faster process. That's the only difference. But in the olden ages, like all the examples given in the Bhagavatam, like Karda Mumuni, he was a pure devotee. Dhruva Maharaj, he was a pure devotee. Parikshit Maharaj, of course, is almost Kali Yuga only. But, you know, all the personalities who are described in the Bhagavatam, they are all great pure devotees who have existed in other yugas. Even during Treta Yuga, Hanuman was there. He was also a pure devotee of Lord Ramachandra. So different yugas, there have always been pure devotees, but the Yuga Dharma for a specific age differs according to the people and their abilities and their capabilities, and so many considerations are there. So according to Shastra, Kriteya Dhyayato Vishnum, in Satyuga, the Yuga Dharma used to engage in dhyana. Tretayam ejato makaihi. Treta Yuga, everybody used to perform big sacrifices. And Dwapare Paricharyayam, Dwapara Yuga used to be building huge temples and establishing elaborate methods of worship of the deity. Kalau Tadhiri Kirtanat. In Kali Yuga, the process is to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, to engage in Sankirtan. So it's not that pure devotees were not available, they were always there, but the process might have been different. Ultimately, all the processes are supposed to lead one finally to Bhakti Yoga. Then only their utility is fully taken advantage of. Is that okay? Any other question? ग्रंथराज Srimad-Bhagavatam की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल.